got a project in mind for today. It's going to require a trip to the orange store, and since I'm going to the orange store anyway, I figured I might as well stop off at the feed store and fill up some propane. I am still using propane to keep the edge off the cold, because at this point it's way too warm to get the fire going, unless I want to have all the windows in the cabin open, which is kind of self-defeating, right? A little overcast, about 42 degrees. The snow and ice are melting quickly. I showed you or I will show you now, what I did with the solar panels yesterday. Or the one solar panel, the 100-watt panel. And the results of that I was pretty excited by. And this is going to be another electrical project today, but not... It's going to be a storage rack for the batteries, because they're taking up way too much space. Big batteries like that do in fact take up a lot more space than the 100 amp hour single batteries that you have, but you need a lot less of them. So I kind of have a project in mind that I think is going to really streamline the whole inside of that and leave me room to expand, because there is an expansion planned down the road here of the battery system. I'd like to double it. So right now, let's say, when we ran the first test with those Vader batteries, I got 9 days of power run out of them without a charge. So until it took them down to 0. And so let's just call that 7. If I could double that system, I would have 14 days. So I'd have 2 weeks of on-hand storage minimum without having to put a charge on anything, without having to run a generator at all. And I really like not having to run the generator. I'm really liking the peace and quiet. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm going to head into the orange store. I think I can buy almost everything I need pre-made or pre-cut, which would be very nice. I'll head to the orange store. I'll get that taken care of. Head over to the feed store, pick up some propane, maybe another bag of feed for the ladies and Sam, and then head back and we'll get this thing started. I'm thinking tomorrow, if the weather seems to hold out, which it looks like it might, I'll do some tree falling. I want to let a little bit more snow melt before I get out there with the chainsaw and start cutting some trees down. And we'll get that project started, get the woodshed project started. Woodshed / storage building started. And then I can move on to mounting panels on top of that thing. And I think you'll see why when I show you this next part. A little overcast, a little cloudy, 43 degrees as I'm heading on down the road, but as you can tell, winter is losing. Spring is here, and I need everything to thaw out, including the ground, so I can get busy. It's a semi-gorgeous day out here today. I've got the big solar panel, that one, and that recharges the Opes out in the sun. And then I rigged up a stand for the smaller solar panel. That's a 100-watt panel. I'm going to turn on the screen record and show you why I'm very pleasantly happy right now. Besides the fact it's beautiful, and I've got the barbecue fired up, and I'm getting ready to grill a steak. Okay, let me get back here. So here is my Victron smart solar charge controller. And right now, that 100-watt panel is pulling in 80 watts. But if you look down there where it shows the voltage, just below that it shows the current. It's drawing 4.6 amps, 4.8, 4.4, just over 4 amps, right? So that's the amount of current going through those lines, finally, to my batteries. And it's actually showing down below at the battery that they're taking 5.8 amps, 5.9 amps. We'll go ahead and we'll get to the batteries now. So this top little elephant one, that is my app for the batteries. It does that. And if you look, it says 73% and charging. It's going to take 28 hours, 30 hours for it to charge like this, if you see the estimated charge time. But below that, you see a positive under the current bar where it shows amps, that 2.84 amps coming in right now. And this is split between 2 batteries. So if we go to the other battery and look, it's at 72% and it's got 2.48 amps coming in right now. So 4.5, almost 5 amps charging. Watts of power there next to it, 30.83 watts. It's not a lot, trust me, but that's a single panel on my solar system, which is super awesome. We'll go back and look at that Victron Connect again. And I am a guy that loves apps for everything like this, because then I can take a peek at where everything's at on any given moment and look at it. So we'll let it connect. I'm sitting outside the cabin right now. Oh, that sun feels good. Sun feels real nice. And we're at 65 watts. We got a little bit of haze up there in the sky. Hopefully that'll clear out. But 3.7, 3.6 amps. Now, that's the status right now. But if you click the history button, it'll show you what I've been getting, right? So I've been getting like 30 watts, 30 watts, 10 watts, 10 watts, 30 watts, 20 watts. And then today, right now, I've gotten 90 watt hours of power, which is super, super awesome, because I haven't seen that happen. And a lot of that's got to do with where the solar panel was before, and I just basically had it out of the way for the time being. But I did want to rig that up. I was sitting right over there next to those two tanks just to keep it out of the way. And then I started playing around with moving it over here, and I thought, you know, Bob Ross has an easel made out of a ladder, and that old aluminum ladder's been with me forever. That was my dad's ladder. So I said, I bet you I could figure something out. So I got it bungeed around the bottom, pulling the bottom in tight, and I got a bungee around the top. I don't know if you can really see that, the red bungee on the top, holding it down so it doesn't blow over, hopefully. But man, this is a glorious day. And that is absolutely awesome. The cool thing is that right behind that is where the woodshed's going to be. So that solar panel is actually going to be in a similar location, but it's going to be about 12 feet higher in the air than it is right now. So it'll be getting all that gorgeous sunshine onto that. And that is super, super awesome. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. You know, for a guy that's absolutely a rookie at solar, that's a neat thing to see, a very neat thing to see. Anyway, I just got home. I had to run back to town because I dip, and I was out of dip, and I needed gas on the truck anyway, and the truck needed a bath. And then I wanted some beer. I wanted some 40 Night State stout, their nitro stout, which is absolutely delicious to go with this date tonight. Yeah, super, super, super relaxing evening. I'm going to kick back out here, listen to an audiobook, probably eat dinner out on the deck. Awful noisy, Sam. Awful noisy. Ladies, how are you? I'm just testing the microphone right now to see if it's coming up. All right. I think I'm recording. Am I recording? I'm recording. One of the things that I have to fight constantly in the spring here is everything being frozen to the ground. But I'm okay. I didn't know which way I had laid this out last year. But apparently I was intelligent and I didn't do what I did the previous winter. Uh-oh. Ruh-roh, Raggy. Frozen to the ground. There we go. Pulled the grommet out of there anyway. Come on, get over there. All right, hopefully it'll thaw out. So the plan is, like I kind of said there on the cell phone video, that I want this thing to be, I want these shelves to be 1 foot by 24, so 12 inches by 24 inches. And we're going to walk back in there again real quick and I'll show you why I came up with that number and why I think that'll work. I've got those pre-cut 1 foot by 2 foot pieces, and it was just, I mean, I could have bought them and cut them myself, but they're already squared, so there was no sense in doing that. I don't have a table saw. My problem is that the battery is less than 12 inches wide, but the table that it's sitting on is just way out there, and it takes up a ton of space in here. And if I'm going to increase this system, I need to have enough storage space for all the batteries when it's all said and done. So what I did was I picked up some things that will allow me to, I think, build a beautiful little battery rack here that'll be nice and slim against that wall. All right, so I came up with the 12 inches in depth because that'll give me, I mean, almost an inch over both sides of the battery. Now, in reality, the battery I'm going to push back to the back, so that'll give you a better idea of, you know, how much is going to be hanging across the front. And then the 24 inches, so the 24 inches, actually, pull this out a little bit longer, gives me a couple of inches on each side. And then when it comes to the height, 12 inches takes me, now it comes a tape measure again. 12 inches takes me right to there, which gives me plenty of room for my hands, but I think I'm going to go 15 inches high because then I got lots of room to connect anything I need to connect. When I get ready to do this, I'm going to have to disconnect everything for a couple of minutes, at which point it'll be dark in here. So I figured I'd go ahead and I'd get this started now, get all the pieces cut anyway. I'm going to point out too that I've got the solar panel moved back out there where the main sun is for most of the day, and then I've got the other solar panel set up. That one actually does the charge on the OPS power station. I've got that one set up where the sun comes all the day too, but it's pretty overcast today. So let's go take a look and see what kind of charge we're getting on the OPS. We do that before I get started here today. I got 35 watts coming in. That's 35 watts of free power. And then I'll go back to the app for the solar charge controller, and that will tell me how many watts I'm getting right now on the solar panel, on the 100-watt panel, on the baby panel there. Okay, that is right here on the Victron Connect. Smart Solar 150, that's what I've got. And 16 watts. So the current going in right now is just at an amp. So I'm getting about a half an amp per battery on the charge right now. It's not the greatest, but that's a small panel and we have an overcast day going on right now. I mean, that's 100 watts. So, you know, multiply that times 10 and I'm getting 10 amps in right now because I'll have well over 1,000 watts of solar panel. I probably have close to 2,000 watts of solar when I'm done. But I wanted to show you that yesterday. I ended up picking up 150 watt hours. 84 watts was my max on that solar panel. And I'm at a lifetime total of 1 kilowatt hour right now, which kind of is amazing to me because I wasn't even close to that at all. And then today, even with the overcast skies, I'm at 50 watt hours. And if you look back on this screen, I did not have, that's still more than any that I'd ever had using this system. So pretty awesome. Setting it up on that ladder and moving it around out there. It's pretty cool. Take us back to the status page. Again, running about 16 watts, 17 watts right in there. Running about 1 amp, just close to 1 amp. So at basically 20 watts out of a 100-watt panel, I can count on 1 amp. So, you know, as I get going more and more and more, and I get up towards 80, I'm looking at 4, 4.5, 5. Probably if I'm pulling 100 watts out of there, I'm probably pulling 5 amps out of there. Which is super awesome, because when you start to think in the terms of amps when you're charging something, it makes a big difference. All right. Well, hello everybody. How are you? What's up, Sam? Sam the Ninja Chicken. So my total cost for this entire project was $109 at the Orange store. I want to find 4 of these that are just absolutely beautiful. And we'll get some that we're just going to cut. Probably just going to cut that one. That one's got a little bit of a holiday at the end. That's a nice one. That'll work. Until I find one more beautiful. That one's nice as well. shelf. That was kind of a shelf, it looks like. This one's going to be golden. So I've got my 4 uprights. That's what these 4 are. And then these are going to be my shelf pieces. So we'll get those over to the saw. Get them measured and cut. I think my list of... I almost said ingredient list. I think my project material list is pretty much right on for this one. I was going to grab an extra 2x4, but in reality, I need 4 12-inch pieces. And then, I'm sorry, I need 8 12-inch pieces. So that would be 8 feet, right? That would be one of these, basically. And then I need 2, 4, 6, 8 pieces that are 1 foot. So I should have more than enough lumber to make this happen. And I'll have to cut down the boards that I have here that are going to be my uprights. I'll have to cut these down to get them to fit inside the cabin. Inside the pantry room there. It's quickly becoming the utilities room. So yeah, $109. Each one of those shelves, I mean, these cost $4 and, I don't know, $4.35, I think, a piece. $4.65. That lumber's not cheap right now. And each one of those panels cost $11. So I spent almost half the total money of this project on that 4 silly shelves. But I wanted something that was pre-painted, clean, and ready to go, because I am working with electrical here. Got me watching my step here because there is so much ice and stuff around right now. I probably should not be an idiot. I should probably go get my cleats and put my cleats on. There we go. One's got a crack on the end. I should still be fine. One of the things I'm curious about is that's not bad at all. I can live with that. I wanted to see how square that back end was to the edge, and it's pretty darn square. All right, I'm going to fire up the generator and we'll start making some cuts. A couple of measurements first. So I'll do 2 foot across pieces in the back, you know, across the back and across the front. And then I'll screw those into the lengthwise pieces in between. So I'll have to take off 12 inches minus 2 widths of 2x4 because of the 2x4s on both ends to get it 12 inches exactly. And then when I do the uprights, I will screw the uprights into the front of the board and the side of the board coming into it so that I have a double strength connection there. I want it to be sturdy because there's a lot of weight on this thing. But my thought is that the strength should kind of multiply itself up with every shelf. You know, the bottom one will be obviously the strongest because it's only going to be sitting the 2x4 height off of the ground. But then, you know, the next one, the next one, the next one should all be built up on the strength that I have going up on the sides and against the back. And it should be pretty sturdy when we're done. All right, let's see what we got here. to make sure this first one that I cut is absolutely, positively on the knot, or on the edge, right where it needs to be. I need to get some WD-40 in there. Or loosen that screw, that helps. That is right on the money, 24 inches. Okay, I need 8 of these. What I think I'll do is I'll probably cut 3 out of each one of these, and then cut at least one 1-footer out of it, so that I'm sure that I'm getting the 24-inch lengths perfect on each one. Since I don't have a stop for this, I'll use the first piece for all the other pieces to make sure that they're right where they need to be. That is on the noggin. Perfect. All I'm doing here is I'm making sure this outside edge right here is perfectly flush, and then I'm sliding the boards together as one unit up against the blade. I think I'm right where I need to be there. And then I'm using the same piece over and over again to make sure that, the same base piece over and over again to make sure that I've got the same width or length. I'd rather be over than under, so there is the extra 2x4. I've got the other 4 over there. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fronts and backs. And I've got 8 of the sides, so I should have more than enough cut. This is all center wood too, that's crazy. Heartwood, awesome. So I'm going to screw these things together now. So I better be sure my math was correct. Slide these down here. Well, I'll probably just do that right on top of one of those. I knew it wasn't going to be 12 inches. It never is. You know, I get that dimensional lumber is not 2x4. I get that, you know, because at least you know what it is, right? You know that it's 1.5 inches by 2 or by 3.5. But this is 11 3/4 by a little over 23.5, which is frustrating to me. But that's, I mean, that neither here nor there. My main thing was to make sure that I was going to be right where I needed to be with everything else. So there's 12. That way there's 24 lengthwise. So let's screw these together. You know, I come from a world where prices are correct, or where sizes matter, right? So, you know, I sell milk by the gallon. Right? Doesn't mean that you're going to get 3 quarts and a little more. I mean, you're going to get a freaking gallon. So it should be even easier to do with something like this. But, yeah, neither here nor there. No biggie. Just frustrating. So being as it doesn't go all the way to the edges, I tried just to split the difference between here and here. And then I went with flush on the front, and then on the back, I left the same gap all the way back there. And, you know, thinking now, if I've got a gap in the back, that's where the dust and the dirt's going to collect, but it takes nothing to run a vacuum through there real quick, or just brush it out. That's not a big deal. So I'm going to put the rest of these together except for the bottom one. The bottom one I can't put the top on yet because I can attach all of these by working underneath and attach that to the wall, but I can't really do that if it's on the bottom. So what I'll do is I'll wait and put the top on the bottom one when I get it affixed to the wall and get that squared away. Got a fire going this morning. Temperature in here now is about 71 degrees. It was chilly, but it's gorgeous blue skies out there today. Okay, I cut these to length, so they're ready to go. And I thought I was going to have to disconnect everything, but I moved the batteries over to here. So now I can get where I need to get right here. I'm trying to keep it. So if you look right here, this is the drain pan, the emergency drain pan for a water heater. But it's also where I'd like to put my 55-gallon drum for water, and then I'll do everything else I need to do on this back wall. So with this rack, I'll probably put, you know, a plastic coating here so there's no chance that if anything breaks, I'll get water shooting this way. But I'd like to have it sitting like right here so that it doesn't encroach on that pan. So I think we're probably going to get dressed and get started because I'm in my short pants and my outdoor boots, my mucks. Sure, I'm impressed by these batteries. Super, super awesome. So as you can probably see, this is not really going to be conducive to recording much video. So I'll have to play around a bit with. That'll work perfect. That'll work perfect. I'm going to have to play around a bit with the cell phone camera to get you some video of what I'm doing here. But first I need to get dressed, like I said. I think this is going to work. I think this is going to work just absolutely awesome. That'll be the first battery. Second battery will be right about here. I like it. I like it a lot. I'm going to get everything set up in here and then get everything measured off. And then we'll get this built and we'll move the batteries over. Another negative reason for moving into a place before you're done, right? All right, I'm going to measure this off to know exactly how far I'm hanging past the stud there so that I can get a line going all the way up. But that's why I had to leave the top piece off of the bottom one, is because I need to be able to get in there and screw it. Everything else I can screw from the bottom, so that's not a big deal. Okay, so I gave myself 16 inches from the top of this to the bottom of the next frame, and then I had to leave a little bit more because of the top that's on there as well. And 16 inches should be, let's see if I can pull this out here, hang on. $16 gives me plenty of room above the battery to get in there and do some work so that I can get my hands in there comfortably. It's a little more difficult than I thought it was going to be because I can't really bend over to get underneath there, but dead center, perfectly level. Here's a whole box of screws. So strength-wise, I weigh a couple of 100 pounds. So I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. Next thing I got to do is disconnect all the electrical, move the batteries onto the rack, and then reconnect everything. So that means I have to remember to turn off the solar panels so I have no power coming in, and I have to break the main breaker down here on the bottom so that I have no backfeed of power. Yeah, let's get that done. So one of the things I didn't think about was the length of my cables. Am I recording? Hang on. Yeah, I'm recording. Cool. So I didn't think about the length of my cables. When I did this, I'll have to get some longer cables to go from battery to battery. So what I'm doing here is just dummying up. Come on. I'll get up there. This bottom battery. Moving it up to the front. Man, I almost need to go up another. That's crazy. I guess they were pretty snug. So I think I have everything hooked up. Let's see. We have lights, we have power. Still need to do something about the bottom here. What I need to do is get some longer cables. I'll order some 2-footers for these, and then I should be fine everywhere that I'm going. So that's on. That's on. Turn this on. I got my inverter on. That's much cleaner. That's a lot less room. All right, let's double check and make sure everything's working the way it's supposed to be working. First, we'll look at the battery app. That's working as well, just the way it's supposed to. And we'll look at the solar app, or the charge controller. Really hasn't done much today, but it is starting to draw power right now. Usually the afternoons when I get the power on that one. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. I am Sean in Alaska. I thank you guys as always for watching. This is a project I wanted to get done for a while now, just to clean it up and give myself more room in here. And I'm very, very satisfied with how this turned out. Thank you guys as always for watching. Thank you guys for the thumbs up, for the constant comments. I greatly appreciate all of them. Have yourself a fantastic day. We'll talk to you later.